Okay. Protection. Yeah, that one was weird for me too. I guess Parkinson's right, but it's something. Well, he needs to reach. It's crazy. I don't know what to expect. I don't. I used to think he was really great at this, but I'm not sure. Was that last season? I think it was really good, and I got it.
I did too, because I totally missed the same question.
That sucks.
But I don't understand what it's like because I studied it, but now just the answer. I was talking about like enzyme metabolism.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what
I
did the whole I did the exact same thing where I talked about
CYP.
I was like, I remember CYP. I went through that whole thing on the first person. I was just like, well, it's just totally not what me. Apparently not what he wanted. But that's so you were doing that. But yeah, he really needs to reach. What's it for?
Yeah, it's like basically you're good.
Yeah.
We're working on the script. I've had this for like 2 years and I never made a script, so but I got the yours. Well, I was working on the script. I decided I have to make some scarves for some hats for my grandma, and he's scarves on hold again.
I did a word.
Oh, both. It was worth going down because my grandma was really happy, so I'm glad we did it, but it's really hard because my boys' performance was at half like the game Wednesday night. So they performed at like maybe up to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we drove from Lafayette to Saturday. And then I got a touch from 7 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
So I was like, I'm just gonna write a paper.
I'm just gonna try.
Yeah, it's just, she would be. Yeah, it's not like I was obligated.
Yeah.
It was like more than just saying like myself. But I picked her up. She didn't know.
I'm just gonna try to shoot that word.
Because
I'm going to call this for those.
Hold on, this is really good. What did you say? Morning. How are you? It was great. Really good, yeah. I had fun.
You let the other side cheat.
I did not. We just threw corks in the yogurt bucket. It was just a toss-it relative to time. We played before we meditated and then after, and kept track of the scores to see if any different.
No, that's not how I take notes.
It was huge, 67% double digit scores.
Yeah.
And I had him heckle each other. He's really good at heckling, and so is Tina. They're great. He kept saying, he kept telling Jacob, flowers and finals. And Christian, flowers and finals. He was heckling it. It was really funny. What the heck is
Some of it is.
Does anybody want this chocolate? What kind? Got like hazelnut cream and
In fact,
yeah.
this test is chapters 5 through 11. Our first ones are like chapters 1 and 2. And then we have the ones.
You don't have to do it now.
I'm already up.
The whole thing.
I thought you were supposed to kiss it.
Well, you can see it.
Oh, but that's awesome.
I'll share with this.
Sorry.
Okay.
How you been? How was the class? Have fun?
Good.
Okay. So we start class, please. Start with 1 minute first.
Oh, 23.
12.
11. 14.
20. 15.
Guys, better now. Exercise about 2 minutes, please. You. And the last class was to have discussion, so last Monday we have the presentation. You do, right? Presentation. You do presentation, right? You do. So should you? Okay, so Thank you. Thanks for giving the advice.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, so today we talk about mindfulness, how you use your electricity in mindful way. It's easy or hard? Really think. It's easy to use it in mindful way or it's hard? What do you think?
Hard.
How? Want to start?
Oh, I can start. Well,
Yeah.
mine doesn't really answer that question so much. Mine's more related to my work because I'm in IT.
Oh, sure, you have to.
So I look at it different. I wasn't looking at it for what I use on a personal daily basis. I was looking at how I work in information technology and how I have to be mindful of that way. Because since we're an insurance company, we have people's private medical information and their, like social security number. We have all kinds of personal address, telephone, personal information about people, plus all their medical history. So we have a lot of, we have to take a test every year about privacy and all the laws about what you can and can't do with people's information and who can see it, who can't see it. There's a lot of rules about it, so it helps you to be really mindful about how you use people's information. Like if I'm just doing some test queries and I got some sample data and I have somebody's information in there and I print something out, I can't just leave it on my desk so somebody can see that, right? Because someone could steal it and steal somebody's identity with it. So I have to be really mindful about, what I print out, what I share with other people, and how I use their data. Even though the data is irrelevant to me, literally what's in the boxes I create, I could care less about. It doesn't have any meaning to me. But what I do with it matters. If I just leave it laying somewhere, or I email it to somebody, that's a problem. It could be a big problem. So I have to be mindful about that.
Have you made any mistake?
Not with regard to losing people's information or sharing it, no. I'm really careful about that. I make mistakes all the time.
You
But
have some procedures to deal with this type of privacy?
yeah, we have some procedures in place. And there's only certain people you can share information with. You just have to be mindful of who you're sending, what you're sending. If we're talking about sample data, you don't necessarily have to give all the information. You can black out the social securities or just take out that column so that doesn't go. You can take out their address so that the person can't be identified, or their date of birth. Like all that information doesn't have to be in your testing. You can take out the personal stuff. So we do a lot of that.
What happened? Did you make mistake to send out that public information is serious?
No, it's a crime. It's a crime. You can be fired, you can be fined, and you can go to jail.
But if you make mistake unintentionally.
Unintentionally, you can still get in trouble because it's illegal. Yeah, the company can be fined. You can lose your job.
Okay.
You can also be fined personally. And if it's intentional, then definitely you're going to be in big trouble. But even unintentionally, making a mistake, you can still get in trouble because it's really important not to do that.
So during the time that you're working on the computer, sometimes, if you're not mindful, you may click here and there, and somehow you send.
Yeah, you can't do that. you have to be mindful about that. You can't, you're not allowed to just arbitrarily send stuff out about people, personal information. So, yeah, you have to be really careful. You can't just accidentally do that.
So they don't allow you to use your cell phone to send email when you are at work?
Correct. Yeah, and you can't connect a device to your computer. Like I could plug in the screen to the computer, but I can't plug a flash drive or a USB cord. It blocks it. You get this big warning, and it won't let you do it because it's a data risk, and then you get this big warning, data risk alert. Even if I'm going to upload my homework assignment, I have to fill out a form. So it's easier to just use my personal computer. Because you don't want to fill out a form every time. It's easy to do my homework on my laptop because sometimes I work really late, or sometimes I'll be on my lunch break and I'll be working on a paper. Oh, I'd like to just send this off right now since I'm sitting here. But then you got to fill out this big form of what's in the paper, what you're sending, is there personal information, is it confidential, and you have to go on. And I'm like, it's so much easier to just do it from home, so you don't have to deal with all the procedures, right? But they're there to keep you from sending something you shouldn't, because you don't want to do that.
How about how people make mistake too?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people make mistake sending out this kind of information.
I would say yes. That's why there's so many procedures around it. Because if it had never happened, they wouldn't have procedures. I don't know anybody personally who's done that. It's a huge company, but I would say they have these rules because it has happened. I've heard stories of people who have done it on purpose. Actually, there's stories about people misusing the information technology system to write themselves prescriptions through our prescription system. Mm-hmm. We have a pharmacy department, and somebody used our pharmacy database to write themselves prescriptions so they could get drugs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really bad way to use technology. And there's people there's a person who worked in accounts receivable or something who used our system to write herself checks. A lot of checks. She eventually got caught, but she did it for 10 years, bought this huge mansion and everything. It was a really big deal.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah. She got prosecuted too.
That's a big investment.
Yeah, she got busted because it became obvious. Yeah, too far.
So she need to pay back for it.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I know she got caught and got in trouble. Yeah.
And the big company is so later.
There's lots of ways to misuse technology. But I don't know how people have the time. I'm so busy just trying to keep up with all the things I have to do. I don't have time to try to figure out how to use it mischievously. I barely have time to just get my job done. I don't have time to try to get in trouble. So apparently that person didn't have enough work to do.
This is convenient, but sometimes people abuse the system.
Where I work from home, I'm supposed to lock my computer as soon as I step away, just like I do in the office. I'm not supposed to leave it open. You're supposed to lock your bedroom door and shut it and leave it locked. I don't lock my bedroom door, but I do lock my computer. But I don't lock my door because it's just my kids in my house and they don't know or care about what's in my computer. But if you have people, say my office was near my front door and I had people in and out of my house, I couldn't just leave my computer screen open for people to see people's information. I'm not supposed to just do that.
This requires a lot of mindfulness.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you make a mistake and it's too difficult to do it.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Okay, that's great. How about your phone, your laptop, especially your phone? How could you be mindful with your phone?
I think be mindful with my phone. Gosh, this is a big trap to me. It's just full of opportunity to be mindless. It's like a big distraction, right? You just get your Facebook, your email, your messaging, people calling you. It's a big opportunity for just to be in the past or the future or distracted or anything. I think that's pretty challenging.
Who use Facebook now? All of you? Or I got one, but I dropped out. Too much. Someone may use the fake identities, right?
Mm-hmm.
They may spread the rumors around. And we know that some teenager they commit suicide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the rumor. This everyone has two sides. It's good side, but we thinking what else have to say?
I can share.
Yeah, please.
I have the same issues that you do as far as confidentiality. So theoretically, if the president were to be fired, we left our computer unlocked and the doors unlocked in our office. But other than that, I used to teach in the classroom here. So I'd see the kids sometimes just once a week. And then if they had questions, they'd usually would tell them next week. And now, I teach online. And if I teach, if somebody has a question, might meet with me Friday night, they're all upset Sunday that I didn't respond to them. So So the expectation is, probably for a lot of you, to be 24/7 connected to your phone. Or that's it's burdensome. But and just for this thing right now, there's a book in technology, in the technology teacher. There's a book called Hamlet's BlackBerry, and that addresses that issue directly. So they try to meter when you use different technologies through the week, so you be more mindful. And they didn't say mindfulness, but it's the same kind of concept of trying to disengage from your computer sometimes in your times a week. And also, research is showing that kids' brains are actually changing due to connected to electronics all the time. And certainly, they physically, there's kids actually now that can't have motor problems because they've been sitting somewhere with their iPad during their formative years, and so they have trouble getting around physically, which is really frightening.
I always think of, is it WALL-E, the movie where the people were sitting in those chairs and they're all fat and they just play on the screen? Like, I feel like that's going to be people someday, and that just scares me so much. Can't take it.
So, like, you have to say?
I think that I'm going to write mine about how I've changed with technology since I've been in this class. And before I was even in this class, I had read some things online in magazines about how technology is like changing people's relationships with their friends and things. Because instead of, calling somebody to tell them like happy birthday or congratulations or how are you, like we just do it through the computer. So I think people are losing their social skills, even people that grew up in a time where there wasn't all this technology, like now they're starting to use it more, so I think people are like digressing. And then I think children, like he was saying, are changing, because now everyone just wants to like write through the computer or text. Like no one wants to answer phone calls anymore. Like most of my friends, if their phone rings, like they won't even answer it, they'll just text the person back. Or like email their professors instead of asking them in person. I feel like losing social skills is terrible because what if something happened in our country? Like what if we got hit with like an EMP bomb or something and we don't have technology anymore? People don't know how to live without it, and we would just suffer so much because people don't know how to take care of themselves or even talk face to face anymore. And it's scary. And I think in schools, like we should start stressing more like social skills to children, because we can't exactly just stop technology from progressing, and we can't stop people from using it, but we can teach more social skills on the side.
Like for county schools, they have conscious discipline, which is basically mindfulness, but it's exactly that. Every morning on paper, they have to greet each other. So parent teachers, so but you're right, it's a big gap.
But kids don't want to play anymore. They just want to play on their mom's phone or iPad, or like for Christmas, people post on Facebook, I bought my son an iPad or something, and I'm like, he's 4 years old. I mean, you should be buying him like trucks and balls and stuff. Books, even reading on books, but no, they're like, here, just have an iPad and download some games and be quiet, and I don't have to pay attention to you or play with you or teach you anything, because you can just learn it all through the iPad, and your teachers at school will babysit you and teach you those things, and I think that's wrong too.
Yes.
Just because it follows with what you said, like I've always been really interested in this topic. My first research project when I came to IUS dealt with looking at something called singularity theory, which I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It sounds really off the wall, but it was theorized by someone named Ray Kurzweil. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it basically in every computer lab on this campus, there's a little plaque that says like Kurzweil Zoom text or something, which I don't know exactly what that refers to, but I do know that Kurzweil invented something called the keyboard recognition system, which basically when you're typing on the keyboard, it's what allows the computer to recognize those characters. So he's this incredibly brilliant, smart scientist, inventor, I'm surprised people haven't heard more about him. But he based this theory on like a real scientific principle called Moore's Law. And Moore's Law is basically saying that these little tiny semiconductors that you can put onto a circuit board, the amount of those has doubled over time. So the reason these devices are becoming more powerful is because the amount of these little things we can put onto a board is basically exponentially growing. So that's why our phones are more powerful, TVs, game systems. So he believes by the year 2045, 2050, in something called the singularity, which is essentially meaning that human beings and machines are basically going to just blend and be inseparable, which sounds kind of absurd. I mean, he doesn't come right out and say artificial intelligence, but it's more like a virtual kind of reality where he thinks that basically technology will be able to map our brains, our brain patterns, so that when we're in something like a game or a program or really anything, the character that represents us won't only look like us, it'll act like us, because now in a lot of games we can actually build our character to look like us or whatever, but this brain mapping technology he's talking about is really pretty intense because we don't know enough about the human brain now to really, I mean, we know of some, but there's still a lot of things that are really unknown. So that's a little far-fetched. But my point is kind of what you were saying. I mean, I don't know that we can really detach ourselves from technology, completely. I mean, when I was little, I had a blue Nokia cell phone that was like this big, and it could play Snake. And I don't even think it could text. And I wasn't attached to it at all, but I valued it. Like I was like, oh, that's cool, I have a phone, that's awesome. But I didn't have to carry it around everywhere with me. I mean, there's times now, if I leave my phone at home, I'll be halfway somewhere and I'll have to turn around and go get it. But back then, I would just think, oh, my little blue phone is sitting on my desk, it's cool, I don't have to go and get it. And I just don't, so for mindfulness to intervene, I think it's important to understand the purpose behind the technology. What do you really need it for? And I think if we can just understand that, we can maybe moderate it or somehow balance it out. But to cut it out entirely, I mean, Kurzweil would say it's a good thing. He's looking at it like it's going to enhance our ability to communicate. It's going to heighten our brains and our senses, which I don't necessarily agree with. But, I mean, if you think about it, though, I mean, there's technology out there. I know of these little tiny nanobites that go in and repair damaged cells that help people live longer, or they've even thought about using it for cancer research. So I think it's a really tricky situation, but I'm really fascinated by it. So that's my 2 cents.
So up to now, most of us could not be apart from our cell phone, right? We carry in cell phone those all the time. Of course, the advantage is that it's nothing. Our friends, whoever calls, who responds, promptly, right? In the past, we have wire telephone, right? We need to go to the booth, we need to go to the table to answer. But now it's right there. This is an advantage. This advantage is we are eating with them. And, even when we talk, it's somehow we can recognize what we're talking, but somehow when we text it, we may not be mindful about talking about have less human-to-human communication. Yes.
I think the sad thing about being connected to everyone via your phone or your computer all the time is that there's an obligation to always respond. And I think that the great thing about technology is, yes, you can enhance communication. Like, for instance, if you had a job where you couldn't make time for your friends and things like that. There is technology now that allows you to still connect with people, especially if they live far away from you and things like that. But if you don't have a situation like that, or even if you do, and it gets to the level where your relationships become an obligation, or relationships become more confusing because you feel as if you do always have to be connected to your phone because people around you know you have a cell phone. You probably got my message, but you just chose not to respond. Did you choose not to respond because you don't want to talk to me, or did you choose not to respond because you're tired, or did you choose not to respond because you were somebody else? Like, it's a mind game, I think, and I noticed differences between people who were raised to not rely on technology versus people who were like their parents didn't really care if they were watching TV all the time or on the computer all the time. Like my dad set limits for us. He didn't buy us cell phones until we were a lot older. I was always the last one to have a cell phone, the last one to have, to know about this TV show or app or whatever. And whereas my friends who were allowed to be on their cell phone as much as they want, they're the ones sitting next to me in class, having, with their cell phone out, texting all the time. Whereas when I go out to eat with people, I have like rules that I'm like if I go on a date, I think it's rude to be on your cell phone, and that was like a boundary I had in one of my relationships, and things like that. So, and then I also have a friend who didn't end up dating a guy because she didn't like that he didn't always respond to her immediately. Like she took it as a sign if he didn't respond one day immediately and then responded immediately the next day. She's like, well, something must be wrong because he usually texts me back right away, and today he's not. And I'm like, well, maybe he's just busy. And
or it's a bad signal.
Yeah,
He doesn't know what to say yet.
Yeah, and it just makes you feel as if relationships are only about this instant gratification, or relationships are an obligation instead of like, hey, I have my free time and I'm choosing to spend time with you. It's different. It's like 24/7. If you have a phone, you should be able to respond to somebody, so you should do it. It's all these shoulds. It's kind of takes away from the relationship, even if you are able to be connected all the time. It's a reduced relationship.
Like you value time less when you're face to face with someone if you talk to them all the time. Like couples that text all day long. Then when they're finally home from school and work and they're together, it's like, well, I already talked to you all day. I already know what you did all day, so you have nothing to talk about.
I've avoided looking at my phone all day just because I'm like, well, I want to be able to come home and talk to this person.
Exactly. Yeah, my relationships changed a lot since we stopped doing that.
Yeah.
We
Plus,
just
then
stopped
you're more
texting all
mindful
day.
of the relationships you have throughout your day. When you go to work, if you're not, I noticed when I stopped texting my boyfriend when I would go to work, I ended up talking to other people much more and really enjoying my time at work more because I wasn't always getting my phone out. Instead, I was very present.
Well, I actually had to switch my phones. I didn't have to upgrade, but it was time because my phone was dying, and I don't know. It's kind of like, do you need it or do you want it type thing. But I went without talking to people for a little while it was switching over, and my mom kept asking me questions about things that were on my phone, and I was like, I can't tell you. It's in my phone. I can't use it. Or she's like, would you ask? Well, I can't because I have no way of contacting them. It was only for maybe a few hours, but it was really frustrating because I felt like I couldn't function normally without it, and that's just not good. So I think I can tell that it changes things, and I need to get better at not letting it be near me when I'm trying to study, because a lot of my friends don't have the work that I have, the workload in school that I have to do. Their assignments are definitely different. They can do them and do them all at one time and then be done. Mine stretch out. So they're like, hey, do you want to go do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to do buzzes, and every time my phone buzzes, it's like me have to tell them like no, no, no. But if I just wouldn't look at it, we wouldn't have that problem. So I need to be more mindful about where it's at when I'm trying to get stuff done, and not like letting it be near me or where I can hear it or look at it while I'm trying to get things done.
I really honestly didn't get much of a chance to look at any articles. I'll say a little bit. I mean, for me, I think technology at least is kind of, I would say, it's almost like an escape from reality. I mean, it's still obviously reality, but like, I kind of use that as like a distraction for myself, like to try to distract myself from, I guess, everything I have going on, I guess, in the present time. So I definitely do use it mindlessly. I don't know, I don't have really a whole lot to say, unfortunately, right now. But, I mean, I think definitely, like, instead of using in those times where I'm looking to kind of, I guess, de-stress myself, it would be healthier instead of, directly going to my phone or going to a computer, then maybe just take some time and just kind of put that away, and maybe even, I could practice meditation or just, I mean, sometimes I just, when I'm feeling stressed out, I just kind of take time to just like put everything down and just like lay down for a little bit just to kind of, I guess, rest myself. I don't have a lot to say about this subject matter that's happening, unfortunately.
I have a problem with my phone. I feel like I'm in like a support group.
Hi, I'm Christian, and I'm
I'm Christian. A lot of it is off of what Rebecca was saying, that we have like an obligation to respond to people. I do not do read messages, like, like whenever it's like read at whatever time, like that really bothers me, because like I don't respond all the time. Like if I like someone, I'll respond immediately, but sometimes I don't want to text people back, and I don't want to hurt their feelings, so I block those. But I still feel like anxiety whenever my phone goes off. Like if I'm in class and like I see a light in my backpack or something, I'm like, oh, someone texted me. And like, it could be really important or not. But actually, last night, it's kind of embarrassing, but I'm in like a long distance relationship, and they were at work, and so I was like, okay, it's midnight. They're an hour behind. They'll get off when it's like 1, so I'm going to set an alarm so I can at least say goodnight. And I set an alarm, and they called me, and we talked, and I went to sleep, and then at 5 o'clock this morning, I woke up and sat up. I was like, I never texted them because I forgot that they called. And then I like reached over at 5 in the morning, I was like, oh, they called me. And then I couldn't go back to sleep, and I was like, I get this anxiety that like I have this obligation to like talk to people or whatever. And then, I mean, I use my phone for all my schoolwork. I use it for, like I have all of my notes like saved in there. I have all my emails going out all the time. So, like if I don't have it and someone asks me for something, or I remember I have to do something, like I make lists a lot. And then they're like, oh, well, if I don't have my list, I don't remember what I'm supposed to do. So I feel like if I don't have it, I get really anxious. I get like detached from the world. I'm like, I can't do anything today. I just need to. Because I've had my phone like have to switch it over. I dropped it in water and I didn't have it for 3 days, and it was the most miserable 3 days of my life. But I don't know why, why it's such a big deal. I guess, and I had limits when I was growing up. Like, I wasn't supposed to, like, my parents would take my phone at 10 o'clock at night and be like, no, you need to go to sleep. And then as I got older and I was able to use it more, they would still take it, and then I'd lay there and be like, something could happen. If I don't have my phone on my volume's on all the time. If I don't have my phone on, someone could die while I sleep, and I'll be the last one to know, and then I won't be able to, like, it's really irrational stuff, but yeah, I have a problem. And so there.
Whenever I've had to go without my phone, I actually feel much more relaxed. Like that anxiety of like waiting for a text message to come back, or just being bored and having the option of looking at my phone because it's just instinct. If I don't have my phone, like I'm pretty famous for losing things like my phone or just like dropping it or something like that. It hasn't happened in a while.
Have you ever done the thing where you're like, I can't find my phone, but you're on the phone, and then someone's like, oh, well, I hope you find it. Look under your car seat. And then you're like, oh, never mind, I'm talking to you on it. I'm sorry, never mind, bye.
I mean, it's been next to me. Yeah, I've been spacey like that before. But yeah, so whenever I'm without it, I actually feel free because I'm just like, I don't have to rely on the phone. Like I don't have to worry about getting a text message back because no matter what, I can't check it. So it's just freedom.
I feel like a combination. Like at first, I'm like panic. Oh my gosh, I don't have my phone. You know, holy moly, that's just huge. And then, like, you know, a few minutes later, I'm like, oh, I don't have my phone. Nobody can harass me. I don't care. I don't have my phone. Yeah.
Like you share my phone with Dan, and intuitively I was like, oh gosh, I got to help a student. You know, so I feel badly, and I can't right now help it. I mean, I'm assuming it's a student, but I can't respond right now. So there's guilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'll get my phone if I've missed, like I'll set it on my desk, or say I forget, I go to lunch, come back, it's in my purse, put my purse in the drawer, go to a meeting, I'm in a meeting for a couple hours, and I'm like, oh man, I forgot to take my phone. I should just take my phone to meetings with me, in case, it's in case my kids have to get a hold of me. They're adults now, so they really probably shouldn't pull it in the meeting room with me, but they still need me, they still call and text, and so like I'll get back to my desk with like 6 texts and 3 missed phone calls, and it's like instant panic, like, oh my gosh, there's some kind of emergency. You know, and then it's something like really benign, but it's still like really stressful, you know. Like somebody needed their social security number because they were applying for a job, and then well, they don't. And it's like he's at the kiosk in Walmart waiting for me to text him back, and 30 minutes later I get back to him, and he's like, oh, I was just walking down the store, but he walks all the way back to the kiosk, and I'm telling him his social, but I had to get 3 texts from him about it, and then my husband had to text me 3 times, and then somebody tried to call me, and it was like 30 minutes. Then are you okay? Are you dead? Is because I haven't responded. Something's happened to me. I'm like, it's been 30 minutes, and I have 6 texts and 2 missed calls in 30 minutes because of one question. I think that it gets out of hand because I think when I was growing up, you didn't worry about it. Like we had a house phone. We didn't have call waiting. Like it was the busy signal. We didn't have call waiting. We had a house phone. We don't have a house phone now. So when we went to school, and when we came home, and you might call your friends when you get home, but you couldn't stay on the phone long because if your parents might be expecting a phone call, there was no call waiting. So maybe you had 10 minutes on the phone. You couldn't be on the phone all night. You got on the phone for 10 minutes. You got off the phone. It wasn't like you could stay on it all night. And then if you're waiting for a call, say for a job interview, well, you hope you have an answering machine, right? And people would leave a message on a machine and you would call them back the next day or a couple days later and nobody freaked out because there was a lag. Like you were saying, you could respond to your students at the next class. It might be a week later. Nobody's panicking. But now that you're online and they know you have email, if they don't hear from you in 2 days, they're freaking out. And it's like, hey, kid, it's the weekend. Let the teacher have a life.
You don't do it, so why don't you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think it adds a lot of pressure.
Chance I get, then I don't have a life.
Right. That is your life.
Yeah.
If you're constantly responding to phone calls and texts, that's your life, right? That's what you're doing.
The flip side though is that you can respond quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it is an emergency. I know some professors are very, very diligent about always responding, and then so, like this semester, I have a professor who, not naming names, but who is very bad about responding to emails. But it's not that this person doesn't respond to emails like right away. It's like, because that doesn't bother me. But when it's something really important and they don't respond for like a week, and then you have to go to class and be like, did you see my email? Or like 2 weeks, did you see my email? No, I didn't get the email. It's like never responding. And some students do get very, very upset by that, whereas I'm just kind of like, okay, this person just isn't very good about responding to emails, so I'll just save it for class, whereas other students will get get very upset about it. And it is unfair because you can't just ask them in class, and I don't know, it creates this reliance on technology that some people just don't want it that way.
One of my professors apologized for not replying to me through email like earlier in like during the break. Like I maybe emailed her on Friday or maybe Friday, just for something that I needed to take care of. And I told her, don't worry about replying right away. This is something that can wait until later. Like it's okay. And she like responded with, I'm sorry I didn't reply sooner. And I was like, it's okay. Like it's your break. I don't expect you to just be like there all the time. And I know when she goes home that she likes to not. Well, she would take her work with her. Her husband doesn't really like her like taking her work home because then she'll never spend time at home. Like she'll just keep doing it. She's like really diligent about getting things done. Like sometimes I know that she's like stayed over in her office because she's got like stuff to do, and she's like, I gotta get this done, and I'm gonna stay here all night and get it done. And she does, and it's like, ooh, I don't know that I would ever be able to like do that. But it was just funny that she was so apologetic over break about it. It's Thanksgiving.
I kind of expected all my professors to respond on Monday. Like I sent an email, and my friend sent an email, and we were both trying to email the same person. I was like, I'll probably get a response on Monday, and she's like, I need a response right now.
It's a holiday weekend. You don't need a response.
No, because if you waited that long, you shouldn't expect. I don't know. If you've waited so long into the break, you can't expect someone just to like meet you right in the middle type thing. Like you have to be mindful or like courteous of their time.
And some professors feel the need to tell all of their students, just so you know, if you send me an email at like midnight tonight, I'm not going to respond right away. Like, I will have my computer, I might see the email, I'm not going to respond, just throw that out there. Like, you have to tell them where it's
like as an RA or a CA, like we have this thing where we don't give out our numbers unless it's like a resident who's really in need of it for like safety, like personal safety reasons. But like I don't give my number out to my residents. I don't give my email. I tell them that they can knock on my door or leave a note with my roommates. My roommates like have been my roommates for a while, and they know not to read the note. Like I have the door, you can slip it under my door. Like, and they like, you don't give out your number. No, because I don't want you calling me at 3 a.m. just to tell me something that's harmless and useless. Like, I have a life too. Because they will. They'll say, I think our water's running, or I think our sink is dripping too much, or something won't drain, you know.
I can wait till morning.
That's when you email someone, I can't fix your toilet, I can't fix your sink, but they think that that's my job, so I have to direct them in a new direction. And I kind of like went out on a limb and gave them like one of my social media account names, because I was like, okay, they can't contact me through this one. You can't actually, like, it was Instagram. Like, I won't get them my Facebook or anything. If they find me, like, I wait a long time to like accept them. But it's just, it's a weird thing, because I have to really be careful, because I'm good friends with some of my residents. So like when we're off campus and like doing things together as like a friend group, other people see it and they're like, well, why are you hanging out them, like, why do they know your social media accounts? Well, because they're friends. Like, it's taken them months to be able to, like, get into that kind of, I don't know, inner circle type thing. Like, it's just weird because people question why you're not, like, just completely out there for them, like, at their disposal.
How often you check your email?
Several times a day.
Several times a day.
Well, I
Especially-
learned like if I didn't, then I'd show up to class and then we canceled. Or I'd realize like, oh, 10 minutes before class, my professor sent out this worksheet and you're supposed to print it off and have it for class. And if, you're supposed to check your email all the time. So if you didn't get that, then you're not going to be prepared for class.
I have to have mine forwarded to my regular email, which comes to my phone, because that happens for me a lot too. I feel like people wait to the last second to write you and say, class is canceled, or bring this, don't bring this,
Yeah.
Or your friend write you, can you tell the professor I'm going to be late or whatever, and then they're mad because you didn't tell them. You can't write yourself.
They'll find out.
Most of the time I don't check my email before the class. I just check my email after the class so that I don't have time to calm my mind. So sometimes some of you guys email to me when you're late, and so far I check that later. That's fine. But remember, again, texting sometimes with families or friends, it's not much important, right? When you write an email to your professors, to your boss, to some important people, right? One of them mistake, they ruin your career too, right? Misspelling, even they may degrade your professional skill. And so most of the time for me, if I deal with the upper level one, I mean the professors, especially in the school, I have to respond one day later. Unless it's friends or family members that will respond right away, but for matter, for teachers, have to wait for a month. So we have all time to think about what we want to respond. Sometimes we respond on the spot, we miss some things that we could not say, I apologize to this second email. They look back, right? So this is good.
I think a lot of people we text a lot and then we switch over to send somebody an email. It's really easy to have very poor grammar and spelling in email when you're texting in text talk, right? You're texting PLS, IDK, LOL. And then you're going to write an email and instead of typing out a word in full, like please, you might just do PLS because it's habit. And I think you have to like really focus on having proper grammar and spelling in email and realize that's a different media than texting. Texting, sure, it's helpful to have abbreviations. I still text sentences in my emails because I'm older, like I notice more with the kids, like my kids. Everything's an abbreviation. Even on Facebook, it's like they're texting when they post something. I'm like a full sentence kind of person. And I do it in email especially. But I've noticed that a lot at work. I'll get emails and there's a lot of little abbreviations, like they're half text, half email. And these are from professionals. And it's like, that's a kind of a problem. You're kind of losing the boundary of what, like each media has its own form and you should stay within the boundaries of that and realize what the audience is and the purpose of that media is. Like an example is, I have a friend, and we're less friendly now because a couple years ago we had a discussion about something via text. And my text back was misunderstood because it was text. And it was something that should not have been handled in a text. I should have called her, right? And that was my moment, my wake-up moment, being like, oh, this should have been handled in a phone call. Because it didn't really matter how you texted, it wouldn't have looked good. It was too hard to explain in a text. But she had started the conversation by texting, and instead of stopping and saying, no, this is a phone call thing, I just continued the conversation. Well, it went south really quick, and it was a big misunderstanding, and we resolved it, but it's not the same level that it was before. We don't talk that often anymore. And it was because of that moment. And so now I try to be really conscious of okay, this isn't really appropriate for texting. Please grab some sugar at the store. It's okay for texting, but I really feel like your attitude this morning was unacceptable. Not so much great for texting. That's more of a phone call or a one-on-one discussion. So I think it's for me to be mindful of like which media I'm using based on what I'm trying to do, because you can send a text and it can just be some not big deal, but when they get it, it sounds really bad, even though you didn't mean it that way.
I feel uncomfortable going back to the right way to address certain people in an email. I always feel uncomfortable being very informal with my professors, but I find that the majority of the time they're rushing about to respond to a million people or whatever the reason. They're the ones being very informal, so I always start off being very informal with my professors, like, Doctor, what's Dr. Whoever, I send the email, it's very formal, signed, blah, blah, blah. And then I get back a one sentence thing, like, it might not even say, like, Rebecca, it'll just be, like, a sentence, and then it'll be signed, like, D, or whatever, it'll just be, like, dash, my name. And then from there, then I'll just be like, okay, if they want to be informal, then I'll continue to be informal, because that looks silly if I'm, like, continuing to be, like,
I don't think it's silly. I think it's okay for you to maintain your side of the formality if you feel comfortable in that. Somebody has to keep it up.
But then it's like, yeah, but if they're doing that, then I'm just going to mirror that and just make it easier, because
it is easier.
But if somebody else is being, but I always start off being formal, and then if I get that reciprocated, then that works for me. Because some professors really do get bothered if you aren't very formal. It's seen as disrespectful, and it's not good practice. Whereas others just don't care. So I always start off with that rule. and see where it goes.
I had a class, my very first class when I started the graduate program here, and the director, she had introduced herself with her full name, but she also said, she was Dr. her name. And then, so I was like, well, what do you prefer to be called? Because she had said her full name. Dr. So okay. She's like, I worked really hard to earn that title. It costs a lot of time and a lot of money, and it's really hard. So I'm doctor. So from that moment on, it's Doctor everybody. I don't care if you call me by my first name, you're Doctor so-and-so, because you got that title, and it was hard. I was like, I never forgot that. And then at work, that's something at work that is the formality of the emails and the salutations and stuff. That's something that's really interesting that I've just been working on the last couple of years, is because my focus for my graduate program is it's liberal studies with a focus on international relations, and I try to focus on like India, because I work with a lot of people from India. So I've done some reading about discourse communities and the way people talk and the way they write letters and whatnot. And what we found is that people from India are very, very polite, very, very formal, all the time. So when it's really cute actually, when they will IM you, even on an IM, which is basically like texting, right? An instant message is pretty much texting, but they will have salutations there. Hi, Tabitha, good morning. Like full-blown sentence. They don't just, and like my other counterparts at work are like, hey, can you blah-de-blah? Did you see da-da-da? They don't even say hi. They'll just be like, is there a something in blah-da-blah? Did you get this code for da-da-da? It's just bam. They just straight get to the point and ask you the question. But if it's somebody from India, then it's, hi, good morning. How are you today? There's like salutations. There's questions about your well-being. It's a conversation back and forth, and then they ask the question. So you have to be prepared. Like, and in the mornings, I'm horrible. The first 2 hours of my day, I'm like the worst person. So I have to like tell myself, okay, because I have no patience. I'm not awake yet. I fumble around and stumble into stuff. I can't speak. Literally can't speak. I'm just a wreck when I wake up. And so I log on real early, and I just kind of watch email. So I've got to this thing where I turn my IM off where it looks like I'm away until I'm focused enough to be able to do that without being irritated, because it takes time. You have to have patience. It's like you're going to have a 5-minute conversation, even though to me an IM is meant to be like bam, bam, bam. It depends on the person you're talking to, and you don't want to be offensive. So I've learned to just be really patient, or just make it look like I'm away until I can be patient, because I think it's important to keep up that, to make the other person feel like you're communicating with them, even if you think it should be faster. And like emails is always dear so-and-so, or hi so-and-so, could you please blah, 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 blah. It's never just a question. But then all my other counterparts who aren't Indian, it's like, blah, sentence, one sentence, just straight to the point. And it may not even make sense. It's not even enough words to tell you something. And I'm like, did you mean They didn't even say enough to make sense. It's really strange. It's a complete opposite dynamic in the workplace. It's really, really interesting.
I think it speaks volumes that you're performing in your term respect. You know, like from my perspective, if somebody is doing quality, something all along the line, then when I look for this stuff, I kind of don't have to worry about it so much. But if somebody's like sloppy and responding to their emails or whatever like that, then I'm more likely to find to go and to see if they're up to snuff, so to speak.
So if they speak to you a certain way through email, you're more likely to see them a certain way, like
Yeah,
within their work.
You get a prejudice. Yeah, so you get.
You get like a different perception of the person you're communicating with, and that trickles down into their performance in the classroom, or like I can see that though, because if you get a resume and it looks horrible compared to a resume that looks really good and well organized, it's the same type of thing. You're like, what are you trying to say about yourself here?
It shows care.
Yeah, like they took the time to care.
Yeah, if somebody cares now, they would probably be caring on other things.
Yeah. Later on in the semester when things are challenging and the hard work begins, you'd expect that they would have the same sort of effort type thing.
Yeah, especially in the professional environment, that's right. Sometimes we need to be mindful. Most of the time we need to be mindful to address the professions. Of course, when you pass through your friends, you should sometimes doing second without thinking to the level of people. Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, whenever I first got my phone, I would get text messages with abbreviation and stuff, but I never let myself do it because I didn't want miscommunications, I guess. And at first I didn't even know what they were trying to say. And I was like, that's confusing. Why would people talk like that? So I always use like sentences with commas and apostrophes and semicolons and like everything.
Yeah.
So my text that could have been like a sentence long ended up being like 2-page text. But I prefer it that way, and my writing has improved the more, and I text a lot, so I get a lot of practice, but my writing's better, my organization's better. I always go over my text to make sure that I've covered every point that I want to cover and be like,
I do.
I'll be like, okay, well, this answers their question. Here's my question. Well, how could they read that? And I'll spend forever on a text message.
There's
making
so.
sure.
Sorry.
No, yeah, that was it.
I just had a situation like that the other day, and no matter what, when you're texting and you don't pick up on somebody's voice and how they mean something, they can't explain something right away. If there's a confusion, there's always going to be things lost in translation, and people are always going to be confused. Like the other day, I was talking to a friend, and I'm always writing like that, and maybe it's just 'cause, like I'm going to be an English teacher, and I value that communication, and I don't see it as easier to do it the other way because I like being able to be clear. But I was talking to a friend, and we were both talking about graduation and how we feel about it. And he was saying something about like he has to study for the GRE, and I was like, or I reminded him about the GRE. Anyway, it doesn't matter what we were talking about. But basically he exclaimed something like, "Oh my God, I'm like really worried," and I was just like, "I'm really excited," like and I was just like, "I don't think I share your sentiment," and he's just like, "I think you are misconceiving my sentiment," and I was just like, "Well, I think it's really hard to pick up on sentiment through text messages," and he's just like, "Yes, I agree." It's like no matter what, like you don't know how somebody means something, especially even if you put an exclamation mark. Like I put exclamation marks a lot because I am excited about something, whereas other people could think you're saying like you're being like really over the top.
Like yelling. Yeah,
being over the top or yelling or just being like way too excited about something. Whereas to me, it's just like that's just my disposition, to be like, hey,
I do what you do on Facebook, though. When I post something on Facebook, I have to make sure that it reads well, and then it makes sense, and I don't care if it's 2 paragraphs instead of a couple of sentences. Like, I want people to know what I'm talking about, because nothing annoys me more than if I post an opinion or just something interesting, and then someone comments something stupid on there, and I'm like, if you don't know how to spell, get off the page. Leave me alone. I'm writing something concise, and it took me 40 minutes to type this out. You say something dumb on there, get out of here. But yeah, I take forever to post on Facebook. Like, I'll just sit in my car and just keep typing, fixing, copying, pasting, fixing, and my boyfriend just stares at me and he's like, why do you take so long to post things on Facebook? You're just posting that our dog learned a new trick. I'm like, I just want people to think that I'm smart. I'm sorry. I don't enjoy people posting stuff on Facebook that I can't even understand because they're using words that are completely misspelled, or like the one that really annoys me is if people will spell your, like Y-O-U-R, Y-U-R. Why did you leave that one O out? Why?
It doesn't save anything. One letter.
No, just use U. Just use the letter U. I'm more okay with that than
or just Y-U-R is better than Y-O-R.
It's like people try really hard, or they'll still do the thing where they use a number instead of a letter, or like the $ sign instead of an S. That took you more time to find the $ sign on that keyboard than just hitting the X.
Yeah, you have to switch keyboards to get the $ sign.
Exactly. Like, please do not do that. I will not be your friend on Facebook. I will not associate with you if you do that.
I'm the opposite. Like, I have my phone, my smartphone, the iPhone, but even if like you steal my phone, you couldn't find my information on it at all, because I'm the type of person like to keep, write on the paper, because I like to touch things, And I think about like whenever you have something like personal, nobody can steal your information. And also like if somebody like you text me or contact me, you better call me, because when I see your text, I would never reply, because I like to talk in person, At the time, if I really touch my phone a lot, like you said, when you date with somebody, like you really want to talk, yeah, at that time I can look at my phone. But the other time, sometimes I don't even know where my phone is. I don't even care about it. Like my family, I think about like my cousin, really funny. I just like, okay, I go over my cousin, and me and my big cousin stay downstairs in the basement. And then the younger cousin, she wants something, and she don't even come downstairs. She just sit and lay on her bed and texting, hey, I need something, you guys have something down there. Say, why don't you just come down here and take it, instead of just sitting on the chair and text. And so that's why sometimes my family really like angry with me, say, why the hell would we give you a phone call? And I said, well, if you want to, just call me, don't text me. It looked like yesterday is my birthday, and they know exactly the time, I'm not in class and stuff, and they just really give me a big say, happy birthday. Why don't you call me and say, hey, happy birthday, you know what I mean? Like, you can hear the voice, you can hear about the, like, expression, like, how did he feel, did he cheerful with you or not? Instead of just saying, happy birthday, I don't need that. But I just say, oh, yeah, thank you back, but I don't really want to. So I think, like, we're missing a lot about communication. Like, sometimes I see, like, a person is, like at work, if you're not really mindful, when you text them to ask them something, look like, my girlfriend, like on the day Thanksgiving, she want to buy something like honey ham, something like that. And then I ran to Kroger, and then I asked them the honey ham, and they asked me, okay, you want a slide or you want a ham uncooked and stuff? I said, man, I don't even know that. She just texted to say I want a honey ham. So like, I'm too stressful because I don't even know which one. And I see my friend work at Kroger, I showed a text message from my girlfriend, and then she said, I don't even know what your girlfriend wants. And then I text my girlfriend back and say, hey, you want a slide, a single slide honey ham, or you want a house, or you want a honey ham uncooked? And then she asked me back to say, the way you talk is so confused. So I feel like really I say, my text message is about like 1,000 words. I try to explain in a single one, what do you really want? And she say, forget about that. Don't care about it no more. And then I just keep reading my text message and say, my sentence is not confused. Like the way I text really long sentence. And I usually, like put comma or dot to let you know about, okay, this is transferred to a different information. But yeah, usually, even if people get older than me, the way they text, I don't understand because no comma, no dot, no nothing at all. So I have no clue which information should I take from the text message. So I really avoid texting because you want something, call me. Yeah. That's why sometimes my friend told me, like, really funny, they said, they compare me with the president. They say, I can find the president is more easy than you because at least the president can text him stuff all the time. Compared to you like, somewhere look like deep in the forest. You can't contact with nobody. So I know.
I just think it's interesting, like when two people are frustrated and trying to communicate, you just end up giving up. Like how you said, like she's like, I just don't even care anymore, which is really sad. Like we're getting to this point where we can't communicate with each other, then we just give up.
We have all these ways to communicate, and we can't do it at all. And we can't even do it right.
That's right. Like when you really, like when I'm really at colder, I'm waiting for what do you really need. Because I don't want to stay there like an hour. And then you text me back, okay, forget about it. Like, it's gonna hurt your feeling, you know what I mean? Like when you try hard to help somebody out, and they say forget about that because they misunderstood or they're not really mindful to read your text message, and they just like, they don't understand something. So should call and say, hey, what I really want is this, that. So you get more detail.
I mean, I'll have to say, like, I know of people and friends that have actually become more social and communicative with a phone. Like, people that have traditionally been quiet or not very outgoing. Like, texting has opened up, like, a whole new outlet for them. And that's sort of for better or worse. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that's a good thing, but I think it all goes back to what your relationship is with technology. I mean, for me, I can honestly say I kind of rely on it. My family and friends are spread out all over the place. So I get really excited when I get a message from, like, my friend Michelle, who's up in Pennsylvania. I mean, when I'm feeling lonely or sad or even happy, for me, it's an outlet to share that with someone else, even if it isn't in a message. I mean, I've gotten pretty good at reading people's tones through their messages. So, I mean, I think, and when I can see those people in person, it becomes even more exciting because I've been able to keep up with them instead of losing touch with them. So, I mean, I think there's something about this relationship with technology that we like, whether it's, or we wouldn't do it. I mean, people do what works for them. I mean, that's part of, it's just human nature. So, for better or for worse, I mean, I'm not trying to say it's necessarily good, but I do know people that.
So, next Monday we have a presentation. How many people in the presentation? 3. Okay. So, how of you like event? Great.
When are we supposed to have our papers uploaded? What's the deadline?
Anytime from now until December 10th.
December 10th?
Yeah.
Okay. So is it December 9th at 11:59 p.m. or December 10th at 11:59 p.m.?
So, they try the best.
On the 10th?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you. See you Monday.
I have a question about the presentation. Actually, about just like the project in general, because I've been working on mine. If we make a presentation, are you wanting us to make like acronyms or like charts or anything to like make a model? Okay, because when I did my business one, I didn't make any acronyms or charts or anything. I just explained it basically, like it was a model, but it was just written out in words, like so it doesn't matter.
As much as present well.
So just whatever you want it to be. Good.
Yeah, so remember, that's successful. I think that's what we are doing. We have to be mindful that that's more important. And the charge, the model. So, yeah, yes.
Oh, I was going to respond to what you said about how technology does have benefits and how it does help certain people who struggle with communication or who are really shy. And I think there are two sides to that. One side is, yes, a lot of introverts especially really do benefit from technology because it allows them to have more communication with people. Like I know some people who were previously very isolated and didn't communicate with a lot of people because that face-to-face interaction was difficult for them. Being able to be a part of like chat rooms and be a part of online organizations or like fan clubs or whatever it is. Like it created this community for them. And then those communities, like I know a lot of YouTubers who love watching YouTube videos and commenting on that, and like they're fans of certain groups like that on YouTube. They end up getting together and doing community things because it's a way for everyone to find one outlet that they really love, and then they end up meeting up and having that face-to-face interaction once they do open up via the internet. And then also, like a lot of people who have autism and other types of disabilities or gifts, however you want to say. A lot of people with those types of disabilities, I guess, they're benefiting from technological tools as well, and that's really helping them communicate and teaching them a lot. But the other side of the coin is this the best solution that we have? Like if you have social anxiety, or if you're really shy, and that's the issue. I'm not talking about like, you're just using it to keep in touch with long distance friends, because that's awesome. Or, you just want to enhance your relationships you already have. But what if you're using it as a way to kind of avoid having that face-to-face interaction, or you want to avoid having that difficult being in a difficult situation and not being able to handle it. Like, I know people who have social anxiety, and I know friends who are introverts and who use that as a way to get connected with people, but you're not taking it to the level that maybe would make you the happiest or would be the most beneficial. Like, you're never going to be able to feel comfortable going out with a group of people and being happy. Maybe that is something you should learn to feel uncomfortable in and overcome it. I don't know.
I think it depends on the situation. I mean, and the person. But you're right, I mean, there's definitely two sides to it. But I know some people that text can kind of get them out of their shell.
Yeah.
Get them out more, get them more outgoing. So
You have to be
mindful
getting them
of
to
who you're
the
talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah, get them to the first rung of the ladder,
Yeah,
there, and then they go up.
So when you have face-to-face interactions, you could feel. You can recognize how people feel their facial expression,
It's a much stronger
the
connection.
eyes, contact, and so forth, right? That's the direct communication. And that is the telephone, right? When we talk with people, we recognize, if they talk with us frequently, we recognize their voice, right? And now we have the next level of texting, of email. We recognize their personality through email, through texting. Somehow we form characteristics through this kind of communication. So no matter what type of channel of communication we have, our personality or characteristics just very especially if you work in the professional environment, we get used to that kind of expression. So again, okay. So like you mentioned, eventually, probably after our generation, human and technology will blend together. And if people don't have much mindfulness, they will mess up very easily, especially when we communicate with other people.
Has anybody ever read 1984?
What's that?
1984.
Yes.
Classic.
What's that?
It's George Orwell.
Is it like
It's a book
about
called
dystopia?
1984.
1984.
Yeah, it's about technology and government control of technology.
Mm-hmm.
He's the first person to come up with a big brother idea that the government's watching you. And like literally every room you're in has a screen that can watch you. And they see you and they watch your expressions. Everything's controlled by the government, all uses of technology. It's a really scary book. It's about 250 pages, and it was so dreadful it took me about 4 weeks to get through. And that's coming from somebody who read 8,000 pages in 7 weeks because I loved what I was reading. So like for me to take 4 weeks to read 257 pages is a long time, but it's a really, really good book if you want to think about, you know, technology and the worst case scenarios, but it's not very cheerful. That's a horrible ending.
You know, hot template, right? Hot translate, so especially the wealthy people are very concerned about, because I have one of my followers is pharmacist, and she said that many wealthy people, that they get what you call, when they have the hot transplant, they put the what you call, hot transplant in
Pacemaker?
Oh, yeah, pacemakers. Yeah, pacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
And they may be hacked.
Oh, they can hack them? Mm-hmm.
Plus, if someone knows the code, they can control that person easily. So that's another bad side of technology too. So be careful when we have some kind of transplanting pacemaker, or even they have some kind of stomach pacemaker. So they may help you to get more money. Get money.
That's scary.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Oh, I was going to ask a question about the assignments that we have.
Yeah.
I feel like I interrupted you. Okay. Well, I got your email the other day about turning in all the 27 reading responses, and then we had another email that said we only have to do 25.
Yeah, let me,
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for
Can you explain
this.
that?
And I want to clarify this. Yes, in the syllabus, please, you just and only 25 up to 7. That's all.
That's all
That's
we have to turn in.
all I want to do. And of course, if you do presentation, you need to do your paper. So try your best to upload your final paper by December 10th. Okay. So we'll be flexible with that. But
Are we going to meet on the 10th for one last time, or is the 8th it?
basis. Because on the 3 of you, right? So 3 of you is 20, 50. So we have 1 hour and 10 minutes. We use 10 times. Try to do within 25 minutes. Okay. All right. Thank you. So we can be ready for your final week.
They didn't say much in the last night, but usually when we're having those games, we just stare. So I'm gonna have to write down exactly
I didn't expect to see that much because we did one round.
and then I'm gonna go around and close the door. Because usually it's then when the clouds, you get people.
The genre that is misunderstood. And it's supposed to library.
Oh, I'm here for one. I'm here for
I have to meet off.
I didn't ask her where to meet her. I guess I should try to find her. Where's Fine Arts? It's Oval Center, right?
Story.
Yeah. That should be in that building somewhere. That's where I
Invented,
live.
I mean, it's very good about how to.
I'm going to take
This is one thing, there's like historical stuff.
for a multinational,
My hobby.
electric record.
Is
I'm very excited. I haven't been able to ever
Have tests now?
Right, but it seems like it would be helpful though,
Whether it is
for the amount of residents I have that
graduate level classes.
have asked me to tutor them because they're on understanding chemistry or something.
Like I said, I think
I
like her top page.
I
Paper
believe that
pages
just it takes a few different ways
and I might do
hearing
some
something
teaching assistance.
to like
We have to
really
make a little
quick.
contract.
And they just
But I
need
can't meet with her
more
till
than one person to do an experiment. If they can read it,
You need to let go, if you see it, and it has an exact science to it, but it's done in a emotional tone. So if you want to connect with somebody educationally, it's probably like having, one thing you do with a kid in school is get mad at them, because then they turn you off.
right.
And same thing there, if you can make a relationship with a child, story, then they're gonna learn better. And that's the premise of those books.
Do you have access to their email? Like, do you have access to emails, like students' emails? because I know a lot of our residents, they check their email to figure out like what's going on, like, or if you talk to like housing and like ask them to put a little blurb in like the weekly email. I know a lot of residents read that. That's how they get most of their information. You can just say like.
I'm just gonna share the shade of that word. Because I'm not the calling for those.
Well, at least you didn't do that. You did it again. What'd you say? Morning. Sorry. It was great. Really good, yeah. We had fun.
You let the other side cheat.
I did not. We just threw corks in the yogurt buckets. It was just a toss relative to the time. We played before we immigrated and then after. And kept track of the scores to see if any different.
No, that's not how I take notes.
It was huge. 67% double digit scores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had him heckle each other. He's really good heckler, and so is Tina. They're great. He kept saying, he kept telling Jacob, flowers, flowers and vinyls. And Christian, he was so Christian, flowers, flowers and vinyls. He was heckling him. It was really funny.
Some of it is.
Does anybody want this chocolate? Got like hazelnut cream and some.
In fact,
Guys.
this test is chapters 5 through 11. Our first ones are like chapters 1 and 2. And then we have mindfulness.
You don't have to do it now.
I'm already up.
The whole thing. I thought you were supposed to. Well, you can see. Oh, that's awesome. I'll share with this. Sorry. Okay.
How you been? How was the class? Have fun?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's my class, please. Start with 1 minute first.
Oh, 23. 12.
11.
14.
20. 15.
I stand now. Make signs now. 2 minutes, please.
Okay. Protection. Yeah, that one was weird for me too. I guess Parkinson's, right? But it's something. Well, he needs to write a check. It's great. He's, I don't know what to expect.
Don't worry.
I don't. I used to think he was really great at these, but I'm not sure. So that last exam. I think it was worth it, and I got it.
And too, because I totally missed my second question.
That sucks.
I don't understand what you're saying, because I just didn't know, but that was the answer. I was talking about like enzyme metabolism.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right.
And
I didn't know.
words.
I did the exact same thing where I talked about
See my food.
I was like, I remember CRP. I went through that whole thing on the crazy person. I was just like, well, it's just totally not what he, apparently not what he wanted. But that's, so you were doing that. But, yeah, he really needs to write the chart. What's that word?
Yeah, it's like basically you're good to go.
Yeah.
I have, I'm working on the scarf. I've had that for like 2 years and I never made a scarf, so I didn't. But I got the yarns. Well, I was working on the scarf, but I decided I have to make some scarves for my, some hats for my grandma and things. So, scarves on hold again.
I did a word.
Oh, well, oh, but it was worth going down because my grandma was really happy, so I'm glad we did it, but it's really hard because my boys' performance was at halftime of the game. So they performed for 9, they knew how to 10, and then
Yeah.
so we drove from Lufkin on Saturday. And then I got a set to 7 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
So I was like, I'm just gonna write
I'm just gonna try.
Yeah, it's just, she would remember. Yeah, it's not like I was obligated. Right? Yeah. It was like more than the same thing myself. Or I email it to somebody, that's a problem. It could be a big problem. So I have to be mindful about that.
Have you made any mistake?
Not with regard to losing people's information or sharing it, no. I'm really careful about that. I mean, I make mistakes all the time.
You
But
have some procedures to deal with this type of privacy?
yeah, we have some procedures in place. And there's only certain people you can share information with. You just have to be mindful of who you're sending, what you're sending. If you're talking about sample data, you don't necessarily have to give all the information. You can black out the social securities or just take out that column so that doesn't go. You can take out their address so the person can't be identified, or their date of birth. Like all that information doesn't have to be in your testing. You can take out the personal stuff. So we do a lot of that.
What happened? Did you make mistake to say now that public information is serious?
No, it's a crime. It's a crime. You can be fired, you can be fined, and you can go to jail.
But if you make mistake unintentionally.
Unintentionally, you can still get in trouble. It's because it's illegal. Yeah. The company can be fined. You can lose your job. You can also be fined personally. And if it's intentional, then definitely you're going to be in big trouble. But even unintentionally making a mistake, you can still get in trouble. Because it's really important not to do that.
So during the time that you're working on the computer, sometimes, if you're not mindful, you may click here and there, and somehow you send.
Yeah, you can't do that. you have to be mindful about that. You're not allowed to just arbitrarily send stuff out about people, personal information. So, yeah, you have to be really careful. You can't just accidentally do that.
So they don't allow you to use your cell phone to send email while you are at work?
Correct. Yeah, and you can't connect a device to your computer. Like I could plug in the screen to the computer, but I can't plug it a a flash drive or a USB cord. It blocks it. You get this big warning, and it won't let you do it because it's a data risk, and then you get this big warning, data risk alert. Even if I'm going to upload my homework assignment, I have to fill out a form. So it's easier to just use my personal computer because you don't want to fill out a form every time. It's easy to do my homework on my laptop because sometimes I work really late, or sometimes I'll be on my lunch break and I'll be working on a paper. And, I'd like to just send this off right now since I'm sitting here. But then you got to fill out this big form of what's in the paper, what you're sending, is there personal information, is it confidential, and you have to. And I'm it's so much easier to just do it from home, so you don't have to deal with all the procedures, right? But they're there to keep you from sending.
And they last class was to have discussion, so next Monday we have the presentation. You do, right? Presentation. You do presentation or paper? You do. So should you? Okay, so thank you. Thanks for leading the class.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, so today we talk about mindfulness, how you use your your electricity in a mindful way. It's easy or hard? Really think. It's easy to use it in a mindful way, or it's hard? What do you think?
Hard.
How? What to start?
Oh, I can start. Well, mine doesn't really answer that question so much. Mine's more related to my work because I'm in IT.
Oh, sure, you're IT.
So I look at it different. I wasn't looking at it for what I use on a personal daily basis. I was looking at how I work in information technology and how I have to be mindful of that way. Because we deal, since we're an insurance company, we have people's private medical information and their, social security number. We have all kinds of personal address, telephone, personal information about people, plus all their medical history. So we have a lot of, we have to take a test every year about privacy and all the laws about what you can and can't do with people's information and who can see it, who can't see it. There's a lot of rules about it, so that helps you to be really mindful about how you use people's information. Like if I'm just doing some test queries and I got some sample data and I have somebody's information in there and I print something out, I can't just leave it on my desk so somebody can see that, right? Because someone could steal it and steal somebody's identity with it. So I have to be really mindful about, what I print out, what I share with other people, and how I use their data. Even though the data is irrelevant to me, literally what's in the boxes I create, I could care less about. It doesn't have any meaning to me. But what I do with it matters. If I just leave it laying somewhere,